Let's meet the people who are here sitting around this table. First, Anita Roddick, who is the founder of the Body Shops, and she is somebody who's had a great deal of experience with Indigenous peoples, and I think we'll hear something about it. I hope so. And each of you, tell me why you're here and what you think is important that we talk about. Starting with Anita.
The subject interests me because I care, because it is, for me, one of the great avenues of education, not only of spiritual education, but education in terms of just your human values. That is the protection of Indigenous rights, the protection of their wisdom and knowledge. How we, at the end of any century, we're now being reflective of what we're throwing away, what we're losing. It's the end of a millennia now, and we have to be reflective, and this wisdom that we're just tearing and eroding has to be stopped. So I'm here. The subject interests me because somehow we've got to stop this rampage that's going on, and hopefully just passing on some ideas, possibly, and just listening, because the future is here with us.
Let's go on. Alejandro.
I'm here because I'm very worried what's happening with the indigenous peoples in Guatemala, which is where I'm from. The country in general doesn't respect the indigenous peoples because they think that they're just another culture that's part of the country, but they don't really give that culture much importance. The person who I really admire is Rigoberta Menchú, the indigenous person who won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
She's fighting not only for her own country, for her own people, but she's fighting for all indigenous people.
Everything. Christine.
I'm here because like Alejandro, I want to find some solutions. I think that there's too much talk going on and not enough action. I think people have thought up a lot of great ideas, but it has to be really global, because I know that I've studied the Yanomami, for example, and also like the Trobriand Islanders. And
the Yanomami in Brazil.
Yes, in Brazil,
right.
and the Trobriand Islanders in Papua New Guinea.
Thank you.
And the Bunyoro in Africa. And like the Bunyoro, for example, they've all but become, they don't even live in their villages anymore. They live in the city, and they know, okay, I know I'm Bunyoro and I know I'm part of this clan, and so on and so forth, but they can't live together anymore because of the way the government is, and just at all. There was just like a whole big civil war, and it's really awful. And I think one of the drawbacks to learning so much about it is, and I know, at least for me, it's turned me into an incredible pessimist, because I see all these things happening and nothing's being implemented, and I don't know, just...
Well, I think, you know, that's something that you've got to if you care passionately about a subject or an issue, the one thing you cannot be eroded by is cynicism, which I know you're not, and two is indifference or inertia that says I'm too small to make any difference. And we have a great quote that we put on our lorries, which is, if you think you're too small to be effective, try going to bed with a mosquito.
Diana.
Well, I'm here because I want to try to break some of the stereotypes that people have of Indigenous people. Being Indigenous myself, at times it really hurts when you have people stereotyping you and grouping you into one thing, and I think that's something that we need to work on, and maybe we can help try to find a solution about that.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go back around. I should tell you before that, though, that Ayana is from the Shinnecock Nation, and Alejandro and Christine are seniors in the United Nations School in New York.
One of the solutions I have to really believe in, and something that we've been doing for many years in my company, is setting up small-scale economic initiatives within the communities, because one of the most important things is to keep the communities together. You keep the communities together, the culture stays together, the role in the culture is extraordinary. And so we've been doing a lot of that, and one of the adventures this year is to set up some small-scale economic units within Pine Ridge and Rosebud. And it's been the most I mean, you're going to laugh when you hear this, because this is something you know. I went in there with my big mouth, big feet, saying, oh, this is what we can do, this is what we can do. And I saw all of the sagebush everywhere. And I said, well, this is what we can extract the sagebush, we can extract oil, and we can make shampoos, blah, 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 blah. And they looked at me as if, get real. First of all, you have to ask permission from the plant nation. Now, what did that teach me at 50 years old? Not to have respect, have reverence. That we're not on top of it, we're part of it. This is, you know, there is never a better lesson for me in my life than that just one statement and that one, you know, procedure. So we're still going to go ahead, but we're going to go ahead with reverence.
It seems really funny to me because when I hear a lot of people, like what you just said, and a lot of other things that people, you know, when you tell them something about, you know, that we're all equal and that you know, we're all one with nature, and they, I don't know, they just get shocked, and it's funny because that's how we're brought up, that's how we're raised, and that's just a part of life for us.
It has been the most extraordinary education for me personally and my company as a group. Spending time in Colombia, spending time in Brazil, spending time in Nepal, all with indigenous groups. And you came back, my experience out of it, which is a continuous experience, is, my God, what have I lost? What has our society lost? We've lost the sense of family. We've lost the sense of community. We lost the sense of shared interest. We've lost the sense of being able to sleep with our heads to the ground, being part of nature, as you mentioned. All of that's gone out the window in a culture that just doesn't measure that as of any value. Just constantly trying to keep it as a yardstick of a spiritual root in our company. There's no better than to spend time with indigenous people.
Ayana, what would you wish that those of us who need to learn should learn? What are the most important things you think we should learn?
I think we need to learn about the people's customs, how to approach them, because you was talking about the businesses you were starting up. Well, I know if you came to my reservation and asked, you know, wanted to start some sort of a small business, there would be a lot of people who would be opposed to that. You've got to learn how to ask, because we think a lot differently. When I live on a reservation, it's totally different. The feeling that you get, the sense of community that you get, your identity, it's totally different from the outside world, and I couldn't imagine not having that.
But it's still, you know, we can mobilize 40,000 people overnight going to the Gulf War. You know, this is what we did in England. Magically, we could do it to protect oil. Can we mobilize that to reservations to help, or whatever? We just can't do it to help feed the hungry.
Well, people aren't interested in doing that.
But isn't that, again, where the NGOs can come in working together, and where the different indigenous peoples, if they work together, they can be much stronger?
They've got to be listened to, and who's listening to them? You know, at the Rio conference, we helped fund the Earth Parliament, which was a grouping of the indigenous people going there. What did the press do? All they did is take photographs of them dancing and carousing. I mean, the incredible vision that was coming through there wasn't coming through on the press, and certainly wasn't that recommended, certainly by the big boys.
They were definitely more interested in what they were wearing than what they were actually there to do.
I think if you go with the environment, I think the environment, just like making people aware of the environment, is good too, because they're starting to notice that it's not just animals we're trying to save, but there are people there too, and that there's more than just one thing to be done, and that everything just like connects with each other, and that
Everything does connect. That's the real message, isn't it?
But it comes down to your original statement. First of all, we have to have an education system that's responsible, and gives us more of a moral education, because we haven't. Our education is about accruing money, possessions, or wanting things better than our families had, whatever. It's all material. So I think that's, if we can challenge the education system in countries.
That's something that has to start now with the youth, because we're the future leaders. Like, it feels real good to sit here and listen to you guys and say that you really do want that education. We have to learn about each other's cultures, because I keep hearing you saying, you know, you want to go into the reservations and help, but you can't go into the reservations without knowing about the people first, because they're not going to want to listen to you, they're not going to want to deal with you, because we're afraid of losing more. And even if that's not your intention, we don't know that. And
So what
really,
would be the way? Would it be to get someone from that community to come and
you gotta
to
slow
teach?
down, because it's just, you know, when people come in and have like all these ideas, it's like, yes, we want to do this and this and that. You just gotta slow down and just say, you know, we have an idea. Who do we talk? If you have to find out who you talk to, because where I work at, we get a lot of calls, and for people, you know, oh, we want to learn about the Indians, oh, you know, and just that's just not how you go about something, you know, you have to be sincere about it. You've got to gain the trust of the people before you can even start, before you can even think about setting up any type of programs or working. You have to gain the trust of the people first.
I know you're going to keep working with Native Americans. I know it because I know you. And I would like you to tell us, because Anita may not know the story, and I only have heard of it, I don't really know it, about the 7th generation and what your job is to be.
Well, the elders have been telling us that the 7th generation, which we are a part of, our generation, me being a teenager now.
All of you are about, what, 17? About 18, 17?
If Native people, Native American people, if we're to continue as a strong and proud people, we have to be the ones that do this. That's why we've started, this National Youth Council has been started, United National Indian Youth Council, to unite Native youth all over the United States, including those Indigenous people of Canada. And I think that if this continues, it's something that's going to be really strong, and this 7th generation will regain our culture back.
I have every confidence that it will be wonderful.
Now, doesn't that give everybody a little more optimism?
Definitely. Absolutely.